Marketing was common sense, but finance was science. Along comes a book, my 1967 book, that says marketing also has science to it. My book gave prestige to marketing.
Welcome to the first episode of A History of Marketing. I'm Andrew Mitrak. This podcast is a quest to understand how marketing evolved. And today, we kick off that quest with an absolute legend, Dr. Philip Kotler, who's also known as the father of modern marketing. When I originally had the idea for this podcast, Phil was the very first person I reached out to. And meeting him has already made this project worthwhile. Phil Kotler's career has spanned over 6 decades, and his work has fundamentally shaped how we understand and practice marketing today. So we cover a lot of territory in our 30 minutes together. Now here it is, my conversation with Dr. Philip Kotler. So Dr. Kotler, thanks for joining us.
Oh, thank you for inviting me. I'm always excited to talk about the history of marketing and where it's going.
I want to start at the beginning of where the word marketing originated. And in one of your lectures, you give a fascinating illustration. You say, in the year 1900, if you looked up the word marketing in a Webster's dictionary, you wouldn't find it. But then if you picked up a dictionary in 1910, you would find the word marketing in it. So I'm just curious, what happened around the turn of the century with the emergence of marketing?
I would guess that around 1900, the word selling was used so much, maybe in conversation, but not in print. Some people might say, hey, you're going to sell it or market it. I don't know. But there was no textbook on marketing. The first ones came out in the decade from 1900 to 1910. Why were they written? Well, because economists really wrote these new books called marketing. They felt that the economists didn't discuss enough of the factors that influence the level of demand. The main factor economists would talk about influencing demand was price. Raise the price, less demand, lower it, more demand. Well, these guys started to say, well, what about the whole advertising world? Doesn't that affect purchase rates? What about salespeople who knock on doors and show you new things and get your purchase order? And then distribution. The whole system is quite complicated. So we needed a book, said economists. Most of them were economists, that described things that economic theory didn't discuss, or had no theory about, or fuzzy theories about what is advertising and salespeople, and is that of any importance to mention when you're talking about macroeconomics or microeconomics? So that's how the book came about.
Absolutely. So these economists, these are sort of pre-Keynesian era economists, pre-Austrian school, very, very early economics, and marketing sort of originated as an academic pursuit from economists. I'm curious about when sort of professional marketers, when you see a marketing job title in a company, would that also occur at the same time, or was that later?
Well, that was later too. Actually, marketing was not looked upon as an important function. They called it really advertising. Mm-hmm. And there was a separate group that was running the sales force. The two big things was how we got to incorporate in our thinking at that time something to say about a whole industry called advertising and a whole industry called the sales force. Mm-hmm. And by the way, the early books described these two areas in familiar terms, in common sense terms, but without much research. In other words, you'd find in one of the early books on marketing, here are the 5 traits of a successful salesperson. Well, you couldn't argue against those, but there was no evidence, no empiricism applied to figuring out why did IBM have a superior sales force and someone else didn't, and so on. And the same with advertising. It was common sense ideas of what would make ads work well, print ads, of course. This was maybe before we got to radio ads and television ads.
We talk about marketing as a form of applied economics and marketing originating from economics, and you yourself got your master's and your PhD both in economics, and I'm wondering if you could talk about how you sort of jumped from economics to marketing, and I guess more broadly, what that relationship between economics and marketing is.
Yeah, those are two good questions. My economics degree at the master's level was from the University of Chicago.
Yeah.
And I was a student of Milton Friedman,
Wow.
and therefore was learning Friedman economics in a sense,
Yeah.
which is free market. And not only free market economics, but where the government is the problem, not the economy. But then nothing about marketing then. Then I moved for my PhD to MIT, and Professor Samuelson, Paul Samuelson, is the leader. And he's a Keynesian economist. And he believes that the government plays an important role, especially in recessions and depressions, of learning how to pump in more money so consumers will have more to spend and businesses could pick up on that demand. Now, that meant how will consumers use the money that they're going to get? And so I got interested in the marketing question of how consumers use their money and how companies try to get consumers to use the money to buy the things that the companies are making. So marketing strategy became very interesting to me. And when I was hired at Northwestern University, the dean there said, "Do you want to teach economics or do you want to teach marketing?" But he made a statement. He says, economics is a pretty settled field. It's hard to become Paul Samuelson or Friedman again. Marketing is ready for development. And he was right. And I was tempted to, and more curious about the everyday world of people buying goods and services and companies trying to sell those goods and services.
Yeah, that's actually probably some broader career advice of looking
Yeah.
at what's the emerging category in the frontier versus what's been more saturated and played out. I'm curious, beyond academia, your first encounters with marketing, just as a young person, were there advertisements that you encountered that you felt were specifically memorable, or campaigns, or just as a consumer, or what were your interactions or observations about marketing at the time?
Well, I was very interested in advertising campaigns and whether they were a good use of the money of the company to get more demand coming about. For example, I would watch the Coca-Cola campaign, and I would say to myself, something's strange because there's no information that's new in the campaign. Everyone knows what Coke is. Many people love it. And so what's its purpose? Why tell us nothing? Well, that's not really what happened. It was showing the consumers in a happy state. It was an emotional response that was being not a cognitive response, but the aim of the campaign was going to be to get people to feel happier, connected with drinking Coke. But I wasn't just interested in advertising. I became interested in the whole idea of how to manage the marketing function in a company.
Yeah.
Because frankly, the marketing function was not in on the inner circle of the company. There's always the head of finance. We call it a chief financial officer, and their chief and product managers and all that. Marketing was there to help after all the other decisions were made. I'll give you an illustration. Often, the company has developed an innovation without any marketing people being part of the development of the innovation. And then when it was ready and tested in some ways, they call on the marketing people, it's your turn to advertise it.
Mm-hmm.
Marketing people say, well, why did you price it that high? What was in mind? Who's the target market? Exactly. And why didn't you add these features? How did you even know that this was the best offer you could make? So I was impressed with the companies that failed to include market-oriented thinking and customer-oriented thinking in making new products.
Who are some of the leaders that most influenced you, or who are the most influential people in the field of marketing that sort of preceded your expertise in marketing?
Peter Drucker was not only the father of management, but he had a great appreciation of marketing in his voluminous writings. He was the one who said the aim of marketing is to make selling unnecessary. Because if you knew a lot about a customer, you will know that whether that person is going to even care about what you make. And if you know he will or she will care about it a lot, you have a way to make it available and exposed to them that they would get excited and they'd stand in line to buy it. In other words, his ideal was to come out with a product that makes people just join the line to buy it as soon as possible. And we've seen products like that. Peter Drucker, here were some of his statements. And he's writing about management, but he loved marketing too. One of his statements, the business enterprise has two and only two basic functions: marketing and innovation.
Yeah.
Marketing and innovation produce results. All the rest are costs. Now, that was a put down to the people in production, people in finance, and so on. But a company that is not good at marketing and innovation will slow down and die eventually. And he says the purpose of a company is to create customers, not to make products. You know, in the old days, we'd say, that's a car company. They make cars.
Right.
No, they make customers for cars.
Yeah.
Okay.
I just want to pause on that. That's such a flip where I feel like sometimes today marketing is seen as a cost center or a cost of doing business, and this is so contrary to that. And this is coming from somebody who's really an expert in business management, stating this. So it is just surprising to hear that it's so contrarian to sometimes what's the perception of marketing today.
Yeah.
And in one of your talks as well, as I saw you describing characters who influenced marketing, and you mentioned Dale Carnegie, of course, from How to Win Friends and Influence People.
Friends and Influence People, the famous book. Of course, the idea of the book, How to Win Friends and Influence People, was a testament about the kind of behavior someone who's selling something should have toward the buyer. And it wasn't a book about applying high pressure or hard selling. It was soft selling, and engaging. It was valuing the consumer and the purpose and probing what actually is operating in his or her mind. So that was good work. There were other people. You know, we had attacks on marketing too. We had people who said our cars are unsafe. General Motors is making unsafe cars.
I think Ralph Nader.
Ralph Nader.
Yeah.
And then we had hidden persuaders, Vance Packard, saying that even when you're in a theater, you may have to get up and get the popcorn because the movies have behind them a little thing that is suggesting that you're having a hunger for some popcorn. Never proven, of course, but the hidden persuaders.
Right.
And you know, I always said marketers deserve criticism and need to figure out how to respond.
What did the curriculum for marketing look like as you were becoming a student and then a professor of marketing?
We found out that as a faculty member of a very good marketing group at Northwestern University, we divided our skill set into those marketing teachers who were going to be very quantitative, use methods of cluster analysis, regression analysis, sophisticated things, and those who were behaviorally oriented They were going to get deeply into motivations of consumers and benefit formulations. Building a brand
Mm-hmm.
became very much. Some people thought that the point was reached where maybe the field should be called branding rather than marketing. But
Right.
I argued against that because while branding is the most important, one of the most important things about marketing work, um, marketing is more about what products should we be and who do we want to go after. The brand comes up as part answers, but it's not a full enough question. Marketing is a holistic area. Now, I had a lot of influence from a fellow named John Howard,
Yeah.
who didn't have much public presence, but he wrote wonderful stuff. He really took helped create a framework for thinking about marketing. But of course,
Mm.
the main framework that came about was what Jerome McCarthy did, the
Mm-hmm.
4P thing.
Right.
And a little story about that. McCarthy went to Northwestern University for his training and took the class of Dick Cluett, who was a very good marketer. And Cluett always talked about the three P's and the one D.
Mm.
He said marketing is about product, price, and place, and distribution.
Mm.
What was Jerome's contribution? Instead of using the word distribution, he used the word promotion instead. And so product, price, place, and promotion.
Right.
Those were the 4 P's. Now that's called the marketing mix.
Mm-hmm.
It's a short. Do you realize that historically there was a man named Neil Borden at Harvard who, in the maybe 40s, had a marketing mix of 12 tools that marketers can use. The interest rate is a tool. If you lower interest, more people will buy homes and all that.
Right.
12 things. And so the interesting thing is that we went to 4 P's, and Cluett was the inspiration that gave it to our friend who did it. But the interesting thing is strategy. Well,
Absolutely.
actually, those tools are tactics.
Yeah.
Strategy's above that. Marketing mix elements are the tactics of marketing, but they have to be informed by a strategy that has figured out a need that isn't being met.
I want to talk about marketing management,
Yep.
which is, the most widely used textbook today for marketers. And in your autobiography, you mentioned that as you're writing this, you weren't happy with any of the existing marketing textbooks. And this was
Yes.
partially what inspired you to write the first edition of Marketing Management. And I suppose what was missing from these marketing textbooks at the time, and what did you want to do differently?
I wanted to have more theory about how consumers actually behave. We had simple theories of people having needs. In fact, we had that famous one where there's needs going all the way from the just to exist, your hunger being satisfied, and
Mm-hmm.
but what is that triangle called? You
The
remember
Maslow's hierarchy of
Maslow's?
needs.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
that scheme was there, but
Yeah.
the behavioral sciences were
Yeah.
growing and getting more sophisticated, and we began to know much more
Yeah.
about how the consumer side. So, all right, I felt marketing management offers a more comprehensive theory of consumer behavior and a more comprehensive theory of company behavior,
Mm-hmm.
management behavior than we had really seen. And I did a lot of work about strategy, this differentiating between tactical marketing and strategic marketing.
Yeah.
I also thought that some of the sophisticated tools for measuring demand and forecasting demand that I learned in the Harvard program, the 1-year Harvard program, have to get explained to the students through the professors learning roughly more about market segmentation theory,
Mm-hmm.
and then I quoted something I think I developed it myself, STP,
Great.
that marketing is about segmentation, targeting, and positioning.
I didn't realize that segmentation, targeting, positioning was something that you coined or came up with and popularized in your books. It's something that I come back to over and over. Do you recall sort of the stroke of insight that led you to come up with that?
Well, it has to do with segmentation, which I
Yeah.
was not the inventor of the idea of doing more segmentation. I'm trying to remember the professor who wrote the most interesting article on it. But
Yeah.
once you get into uh, knowing there's even a mathematics for segmentation,
Yeah.
for optimizing on segmentation, um, that you now have segments, but you can't sell to all the segments. So targeting, figuring
Mhm.
out the ones for whom you have the best product, and then communicating that it's the best for them is called positioning.
Yeah.
Positioning. What position? Now, if that doesn't lead to branding, I don't know what does. So
Exactly.
STP is the tool set for getting to build a strong brand.
Just coming back to marketing management, which is
Yes.
now in its 16th edition. I'm just curious about how it was first received. What was the initial reception of it like?
Well, I was delighted with the response, and I figured out the answer to why it was successful. It was successful because the marketing group always felt inferior to the finance group in a company.
Mm-hmm.
Marketing was common sense, but finance was science, right?
Right.
Along comes a book, my 1967 book, that says marketing also has science to it. In other words, my book gave prestige to marketing. It gave a vocabulary and a mind framework where marketers are saying they can add a lot of value. There was a whole group that thought marketing should stay centered on commercial activities in firms.
Right.
And and Sid Levy, my colleague, said, no, marketing is much broader than that because, first of all, you have the nonprofit organizations, and they are marketing a cause.
Yeah. Well, this kind of leads into social marketing in a way. And you mentioned your
Yeah,
colleague, Steve Levy, and you published a 1969 article entitled Broadening the Concept of Marketing. And then in 71, you published an article in which you coined the term social marketing. And what sort of inspired you to look at broadening marketing and also what inspired you to help create social marketing as a field?
the broadening I mentioned is coming about because we found out that all organizations want to use some advertising and they have a pricing problem and so on. But as far as social marketing, it came about because of cigarettes.
Mm.
We were all upset about how many people smoke and want to stop smoking. Can
Right.
marketing help them stop smoking or smoke less? Yes. What we could do is the 4 Ps. Make the product tasting poorer, or find a cigarette that is at least less harmful since they still want to smoke,
Right.
or make it harder to find where you can buy cigarettes.
Mm-hmm.
Don't put them right in the front of the retail situation. Put it in the closet, and then the guy selling to you has to go into the closet and get your Marlboro package or something. And then raise the price of cigarettes so it's harder to smoke 5 a day at that price. And then do a promotion that makes it look ugly to be a smoker.
Yeah.
That show how your health, you're coughing all the time now, and so on. So the 4 Ps work beautifully on that. Today, there are 5,000 professional social marketers. They're not working for companies to sell more product, but they are there to use a set of tools to help people get off of something that they themselves don't want to be on.
Oh, wow. I want to come back to this idea of broadening the concept of marketing. From what I understand, there was maybe even some pushback of people saying, hey, we want marketing to be more of a narrow field focused on products and services. While clearly marketing is much broader than that, I'm curious what the first reception to this idea was.
Oh, well, I think people were hostile, but I would say that there was a group that wanted to stay with commercial business only, and we took a vote. We
Mm-hmm.
asked the
Oh, wow.
AMA, American Marketing Association, to run a vote on this question of, do you, as a professor and member of the AMA, uh, feel we should not stray from commercial marketing, or that we should also allow that to happen? And the vote was overwhelmingly in favor of broadening marketing.
Mm.
That's the best way to settle something, is to just take a vote. And marketing may undergo another revolution. I'm waiting for it to happen. I want to be in on it too.
Actually, also, I want to ask about, your 6 decades or more into a career in marketing, yet you're continuously researching the cutting edge. Any tips, or what's your secret to doing this?
Well, some of it must be genes.
Yeah,
Everyone has the set of genes and so on. And so I was
yeah,
lucky to have a good health.
yeah,
And I've always been interested in learning everything there is to learn in the world. I mean, I've had an Aristotelian appetite, because
yeah,
Aristotle, in my mind, knew everything at that time,
yeah,
because he wrote on poetics, he wrote on drama, he wrote on science, and so on. But different people come along, and some stay with one passion and do so well, and they move the whole area upward and so on. But I've been interested in broad questions and what's happening in the world, as well as what's happening in business and marketing. Yeah.
absolutely. And as far as your interest in a breadth and a wide range of topics, I know one of your interests is collecting contemporary studio art glass. And I'm on this call from Seattle, and Dale Chihuly is a local icon. Just kind of a fun question. I'm curious if there are any marketing lessons we could draw from the life and work and brand of Dale Chihuly.
Dale Chihuly put glass in the minds of
Yeah,
everyone by by not making more of the same. He was selling whatever he made of the same, but he wasn't going to stay making the same.
yeah,
He wanted to see how far you could push glass into being more than it is. And so we go to a garden and we see glass flowers growing, or
yeah,
we look at a ceiling, and the ceiling is a piece of glass plane, but behind it are all kinds of beautiful things. This
yeah.
is in Las Vegas. Sometimes you're walking on a floor and underneath it is some beautiful objects. There's many great
Yeah,
glass makers now, but he was the one who started it all.
absolutely. And there's nothing quite like it. It's so vibrant and colorful, and it seems
Yeah. Yeah.
distinctive. And
Highly
yeah,
imitated, but never as
never
good.
the same. Yeah, exactly. Dr. Kotler, thanks so much for your time. Are there any things that you'd like to promote or that listeners can look up? Anything you'd like to plug?
Well, Andrew, I thank you. I'm coming out with a few new books because I get excited about other areas. For one, for example, has to do with small and medium-sized firms.
Hmm.
I, whenever I and others try to teach marketing, we always use Coca-Cola and
Yes.
McDonald's and big companies. So small companies are sitting in the audience and saying, "Yeah, but I'm a small company. Can I use that? Do I have the amount of money that a big company? I don't have that amount of money." And we always get off of it by saying, "Oh, everything we said you could use in your business, however, whatever size it is." But the truth is, we don't have any book on uh, marketing for small and medium-sized enterprises, for family businesses.
Hmm.
We have some books but they don't seem to. There isn't a standard yet for that. So one of the books we're coming out with will be on marketing for small and medium-sized businesses.
Oh, gosh.
And
I am looking forward to that one. That's
yeah.
that's a personal passion area of mine, and I look forward to reading that. And
Well,
once we have the
it
title,
starts with family businesses because basically
absolutely.
managing in the small, you see all the issues pop up. Yeah.
Absolutely. Dr. Kotler, thanks so much for your time. I really appreciate it. This has just been a wonderful conversation.
Thank you for starting your interest in the history of marketing, because there's so much that we do know, but so much we still don't know. And
Absolutely.
Your explorations will be watched, I hope, very much by many, many people. And I want the professors to broadly know about the work you're going to prepare for their use in classrooms too. So
Gosh.
let us do that.
Thanks so much.
Do successful marketing of your work.
A History of Marketing is written and produced by me, Andrew Mittrack. If you'd like new episodes delivered right to your inbox, visit marketinghistory.org. There you can also find transcripts of every conversation, including helpful links, images, videos, and other blog posts about marketing history. You can send me an email at hello@marketinghistory.org. If you'd like to support A History of Marketing, consider leaving a review on your favorite podcasting app, or better yet, tell a friend about the show. Thanks for listening.